Hi, and welcome to Spoonful of Strength. I'm Rachel, and I live with multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, and a few other diagnoses that keep life interesting.
And I'm Tina. I am a fibromyalgia warrior with chronic back issues and a proud stage 4 cancer survivor. We're sisters, and together we're here to support, inspire, and connect. So if you're new here, the spoon theory explains how we navigate life with limited energy or spoons.
And we're thrilled to share that we've been ranked number 30 on FeedSpot's Top 100 Chronic Illness podcast list. So grab a spoon and let's dig into stories, tips, and a whole lot of strength. This episode of Spoonful of Strength is sponsored by Salty Provisions. Salty Provisions offers gourmet, award-winning, handcrafted sea salts and seasoning blends made with sea salt from the pristine waters off the coast of Norway. Their products are free from artificial additives, fillers, and anti-caking agents, ensuring pure, bold flavor in every sprinkle. Their seasonings are gluten-free, vegan, and crafted to bring out the best in every meal.
Welcome to episode number 56 of Spoonful of Strength. Rachel, can you believe that this is our season 3 finale already?
No, I feel like this season has, in some ways, it's flown by, but in other ways, it's been a long season, not in a bad way. But it just seems so far back from when we started out in February.
Yeah, it was funny because I was thinking the same thing. I was just like, I feel like this one has gone longer, but I think a big part of it is that we had a lot of extra things going on in our life that just made it seem a little more, I don't know if I want to use I guess a little more challenging for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we both got sick. Thankfully, it was around the same time. So we weren't battling the pinging off each other, losing a family member, my back issues, all your extra, all these tests and trying to get down, to the nitty gritty of what's going on with you.
My muscle biopsy surgery.
Yeah.
That took me out for a few days. And
yeah. So I think that it just seemed to drag on, but only because of all the other stuff that we were focusing on. And only because I feel like maybe we were doing more juggling because there were a lot more juggling around and rescheduling of some things because of other stuff going on in our life. So I think that's why it seemed a little more challenging this time. But
the good news is that we had amazing Spoonies. We had amazing Spoonies that we met this season, as we have every season. But yeah, this was a good season. We didn't have one that disappointed. Everybody was just amazing in and of itself. So what are we going to talk about for the first half of this episode, Tina?
Well, looking back, it's not only are we wrapping up the 3rd season, we're wrapping up our first full year of our podcasts.
Yes. It started, let me get the date real quick, because May 4th, 2024 was our first episode.
Yeah. And oh my goodness. So back then, looking back at that first season.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like we have grown, and like even every season we're always constantly looking and trying to figure out what kind of changes, how can we make it better?
Yeah.
Where do we want to go next season? That first season was definitely that taught us how to maybe be a little more concise in how we're doing things.
Yeah. I think that it just was new and we weren't sure what we weren't sure what we were doing, to be honest. And the first season generated most of our episodes because we we had originally thought of just doing this you and I, and then we incorporated the Spoonies into it. So we were doing two shows a week. And by the end of that first season, we were like, oh my gosh, that's too much. And we all know with chronic illness, you have to recognize when something's too much and adjust. So the last couple of seasons,
Mhm.
we've done hour shows once a week and split those up into a Spoonie interview and a topic. And that has, I think, worked a lot better for us. But
Mhm.
yeah, that first season, we were just not sure what we were doing. And it's hard too to put yourself out there, like talking about things that are going on in our lives, being a little bit more open about things that uh related to the topic that we're talking about. And I think we've just gotten more comfortable about just being as open as we can about the topic in our lives and how it all goes together. Um but yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier when you were talking about all the other juggling things that have been going on, but how's your health journey been this season, even this past year? How has your health journey changed from when we first talked? Because you and I did interviews with each other the very first couple episodes. How's your health journey been since that last
Right.
point?
Well, other than so since before then, at the very beginning of our season one, I think it was during season one where I first injured my back, if I remember right. So, and then I re-injured it during season two. Um, and that's been quite the journey for that. But other than that, everything is still, cancer wise, still staying clear. It is time for a new PET scan, so it's time for me to get that scheduled for my next scan. Um, but overall, like this time of year, my allergies are going crazy, crazy. But other than that, I'm not doing too terribly bad. I do feel like it's time for blood work too, because I definitely can tell that there's something off. My energy level the last couple weeks have been pretty low, but I've also
Mhm.
been going a lot, so I'm hoping maybe I just need a little bit of downtime. Uh, how
Definitely.
about how about you? You've had a lot. I feel like that you've gone through that in the past year. You've had a lot.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm in um physically in a completely different place than I was a year ago. This last year is
Mhm.
I started really advocating for myself and really trying to figure out the muscle issues that I've been experiencing since 2018 that were blamed on MS. And the neurologist said, no, it's not your MS, but and tests that were clear, tests that weren't clear. And about summer last year, I finally just said, you know what, I'm going to get myself to a neuromuscular specialist and figure out, is this something or is it not? And so yeah, I've had to go through multiple testing, muscle biopsy. We're still waiting on the results because the results were abnormal, but the IU health system was not able to pinpoint an exact diagnosis, so they've sent it to the Cleveland Clinic. That was over a month ago, so we're still waiting for a diagnosis. But from my understanding, it looks like it'll either come back with a diagnosis or it'll come back with unspecified myopathy, which just means there's some sort of muscle disease. Either way, there's no treatments, no cures. It's just a progressive illness. So it really doesn't change my life as much as just maybe the mental part. But yeah, this has been a rough year. And I think that the things that we're doing with Spoonful of Strength have definitely helped give a little bit more purpose to the things that I'm doing and distracts me in some ways. And I think it's been really beneficial. Um, So let's talk about the last year. So if we look at the top moments of last year, we each sat down and thought about it and came up with our top three moments. I didn't rank mine, so mine are just, these are my top three. But do you want to
Mhm.
start and tell us what your favorite moments were of the last year?
It was a hard one for me
Yeah.
because every episode, every interview we did was just amazing. So a few of them I would like to be a little more generic, and a lot of it is one thing is that helps keep me going with this is all the amazing feedback from our listeners and from our Spoonies of thanking us for providing this platform for those going through a chronic illness or chronic disease to share their story. So that means a lot to me of hearing that
Mm.
feedback. I do have to you sent it to me earlier this week. So we had said we had a guest, Diana and Gabby during season 2. Um, and we sent a water bottle to Gabby as a gift, and then she needed a replacement lid, so we just sent a replacement lid, and Rachel forwarded me this little video or a little sound clip of Gabby thanking us for that, and that just really like things like that warm my heart a lot
Yeah.
of just these little clips, these little messages from people saying thank you for for what we do, bringing joy to other people is what brings joy for myself. So
Gabby is a young girl with Chiari malformation. So we had her mom on talking about caregiving and in regards to Gabby. So yeah, check that episode out. What was your
um,
third one?
one of my favorites, and it's a little brag on us, was you messaging me or you calling me. I believe you actually gave me a phone call and said we were just I just got this email about the top 100 podcasts
Yeah, from FeedSpot.
from FeedSpot. Um, Specifically for this was the chronic or was it chronic illness category or like a health and
Yeah,
wellness category?
it was, we ranked number 30 in FeedSpot's top 100 chronic illness podcast.
Chronic illness. So that was also one of my favorite moments was getting that phone call from you when you told me about that. 'Cause it was that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
How about you? What are your top three?
So I think that it has to be the first three episodes. The first episode, I interviewed you about your life and chronic illness. And then the second episode, you had interviewed me just as a kind of get to know you. And then that first episode, episode number three, the first episode that we sat down and did, because I think that was where there was a lot of excitement, a lot of nervousness, and the that those moments and those episodes have gotten us here today. So I have to talk about that. I also really enjoyed our cognitive episode that we did, episode number 7, where we turned off editing and just said, you know what, cognitive impairment is a thing and we're not going to hide it. And it was a mess, but it really showed how the cognitive impairment, can affect your speaking and things like that. So that was just interesting. And I thought that was really brave of us to do that. And then, third, I think is just basically meeting the people that we've met. Every story's been different. Every person has been, you know, amazing and has given us stories and comfort and advice and healing. And so overall, I think that's a big part of my top moments is we really wouldn't be able to do it without having the Spoonies come on and share their stories. So those are my top moments that I have to talk about.
Yeah, those are it's hard. It was really hard to pick top moments though, for sure.
Well, let's talk about this is a hard one. And I even contemplated about talking about this, but what have been your favorite Spoonies out of the 55, 57? I think we've had a couple Spoonies on during episodes, but what are some Spoonie guests that left you with a memorable feeling?
Um, that was another hard one for me
So
because like you
hard.
said, they are all so amazing. Um, I would have to say Clarity, episode 4. She was actually our first Spoonie that we brought on to
Hmm.
join us as an interview.
Yeah,
And she's just this amazing content creator and um and just so positive and just out there really working hard to raise awareness. Uh, and then yeah, it was I said it was hard. I really enjoyed the Cards to Warriors
yeah,
guest. That program, it was amazing. I signed up. That was episode 13. So I love the program, what they do, their mission of you sign up and then they'll just and I randomly every few months I'll get a card of some sort from them and I love seeing it in the mailbox. So,
hmm
it's just it's because I feel like what they do, I think what I like about what resonated so much with that is I'm coming up on actually 7 years since my cancer diagnosis,
that's amazing.
and it's um people forget you still live it. You never not live with cancer, whether you're in remission or not. It's always in the back of your mind. You're always managing. I still have doctor's appointments. I have blood work. I have tests I do, I have to get my port flush still because they haven't taken that out yet. Um, but once you're not actively in treatment, I feel like your support system tends to forget that you're still living this life. So what I
Right.
love with Cards to Warriors mission is that they make sure that people don't feel forgotten. So I really like that. That was episode 13, and it's free to sign up, and it's for those with chronic illness and their caregivers. And I highly recommend going and having a listen to episode 13, and learning more about Cards to Warriors. And then my last one, was Rachel from episode 34. She was on talking about narcolepsy and cataplexy. And she was just such a joy. Like, I love that. I love her Instagram account. I love going on there
Mhm.
and seeing like she sings, she dances, she just exhibits joy out into the world, is just such a positive person trying to spread as much light and joy um,
Yeah.
out there in the world with what she's going through.
Hey there, salty fans. People are starting to pay attention to what's really in our food supply. At Salty Provisions, they've been doing it all along.
Salty Provisions keeps it clean, literally. They never use fillers, anti-caking agents, artificial flavors, or colors. Plus, all their products are gluten-free and vegetarian.
Their first and most important ingredient is Norwegian sea salt. It's rigorously lab tested and proven to be one of the purest options on the market compared to other major brands. You get the minerals you want without the impurities and toxins you don't.
Whether you're all about flavor or count on salt to support your health, shout out to all our POTS warriors. Contaminants can add up fast.
That's why they made the best choice for their first ingredient, so you can focus on what really matters, like what delicious food you're going to sprinkle it on next.
So go ahead, keep it clean with Salty Provisions. You'll find gourmet, award-winning sea salts, salt-forward seasoning blends, and electrolyte drink mixes.
Visit doyoulovesalt.com. Use SpoonFull with 2 L's for 20% off, because you deserve nice things and you won't have to compromise on your health.
What are your top three favorites?
And these are not in any order. I actually chose all 3 of mine just from this past season because I thought this was a really good season, and so I picked mine from season 3. But I have to say that the episode that just dropped last week with Ashley, who has ALS, she was probably my favorite guest that we've had on. And again, everybody's been amazing, but we haven't talked to somebody with a illness that was terminal. For me, I felt like this is a sensitive topic. Uh, you want to be caring and make sure that you're treating the interview with respect. And right from the beginning, she's like, I'm an open book, ask me anything. Her joy and gratitude for life was so amazing despite being given this illness. And I think I told her on the episode that I'm not going to forget this moment of talking with her, because gave me perspective on what I'm dealing with, because she just had such gratitude and love for people. And despite, the things that she's going through. I also and that's episode 55. I also really enjoyed episode 48 when we had Bill come on. He was one of our Spoonies in season 2, and we asked him to come back because he was very open about his opioid addiction and getting clean from that. And I thought it was something that we knew was in his background, but we focused on his chronic illness, and he was brave enough to come back and join us to talk about that. And I think addiction is a really important topic. And I just really respected him that he was very open about it, and was able to talk about that journey. I also really enjoyed episode 47 where we had Emily on. Emily is a stroke survivor, had a stroke at age 26, I believe. And at the age of 26, you definitely don't expect to have a stroke. And as of now, she has some lasting effects from it. And I mean, that girl's out there rock climbing and doing things that you wouldn't expect somebody who had survived a massive stroke to be able to do. So I really loved her energy as well. And, that kind of rounds out my top 3 guests. Do you want to hear what our top 5 episodes of the year are before we move
Absolutely.
on
I
to
would love to know.
Yep,
Yeah.
next subject. So at number 5 was episode number 6. This is back when we did mini episodes, and this was a Spoonie episode with Christina. And Christina came on to talk about Nutcracker syndrome and her Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so that ranked at number 5. Coming in at number 4 was episode 51, Writing to Heal. and Rebecca. And we talked about journaling. We talked about how important it is to get your feelings out through journaling and writing books, writing poetry, and things like that. And then we also had Rebecca on, and Rebecca had hypermobile spectrum disorder and POTS, and her story was very interesting and was a great story. So at number three goes back to our season one, episode 10, Rocio, and Rocio is from Madrid.
Mhm.
And she came on to talk about her Sjogren's, which at that point I had never heard of Sjogren's before. And so that was a really good episode as well. Number two is episode 47, what I was just talking about, Emily. Her episode, along with our topic, was grieving your old self. And I think that was a great episode, talking about the constant missing of the person you used to be, whether that be physically or mentally, and the progression of the diseases and things like that. So that came in at number two. And episode number one, could you guess? If you had to guess, which episode? I'm gonna give you a hint. I'm gonna say it's back in season one. We're gonna throw it
Back in
back.
season back in season one.
It was a
Um,
Spoonie episode.
okay.
We met a young woman that has MS, but also had trigeminal neuralgia. Spicy girl. She had a lot of flavor. She,
Oh my gosh. Hold on. Myra.
yep, yep, Myra.
Yeah,
Her
yeah.
episode
She
is,
was wonderful.
yeah, 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 she was very early on. And you know what I love about Myra is she continues to give our podcast support. She still shares our episode stories of upcoming episodes, and she still shares when we have, when my Etsy shop is having a sale and I post something, she will repost it. So she's still supporting even a year after, almost a year after her interview. So that's our top five. So I guess we just end this with thanking our guest, number one, and thanking them for taking time out. We know is with chronic illness, it's hard to find the time and recover from the things that you have to do. So we definitely want to thank our guest. And we also need to thank our listeners, of course, for listening every week, as well as our Instagram community, which is growing, and everybody who supports the podcast through the Instagram page as well. What do you think?
I think that that is a great idea to thank everybody.
Mhm.
Um, Great way to wrap it up. We obviously we wouldn't keep going if it wasn't for all of our amazing listeners, all our amazing Spoonies willing to come on and share their stories and um, join us. You're all of you are what's keeping us going after every
Mhm.
season.
So, in the second part of this episode, we are going to talk about soul healing. And Tina's going to be heading this conversation as this is a little bit of a new um, subject that I'm not fully aware of. So for those of you that aren't aware of what soul healing means, stay with us because I'm going to be asking the questions that you all may want to ask, and it might be a subject that is going to be interesting for you. So I'm really excited to talk about this. So Tina, explain what soul healing is and how it can help the chronic illness community.
Mhm. Sure. So for me, and of course, everybody, when it comes down to it, it just is all, there's no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever feels right to you with anything like this. But soul healing is, it's basically helping with that mind, body, spirit connection, being in balance, finding um, Zen is another, just calmness and Zen. I look at it as soul healing it's a different level. It's more than just physical healing, but by healing at that level, it can help reduce perhaps some of the physical uncomfortableness that you may feel.
So can this be something that can help? Is it more physically or more emotionally, like helping with anxiety, or is it something that can actually help with physical symptoms?
I believe it's both because when you think about it, your anxiety, if you're struggling with anxiety, if you struggle with depression or other emotional or mental illnesses, those also tend to they can make your physical symptoms worse. If you're stressed, then your body has, in addition to like the stress response, that can increase your inflammation response within your body. And so it's really that whole connection of, it's not just a one, this will help your emotions, but it's not going to do anything physical because our whole bodies in general are just so intertwined when you think about it.
Hmm. So the idea is kind of like um, keeping a balance of it's similar to maybe somebody who's not familiar with this, somebody keeping your mental and your physical state in balance, but it's adding like a third layer to that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so for some of us who aren't familiar with this, trying to keep our mental health good because that can affect our physical health, trying to keep all of that in balance. We're just adding another layer to that to try and help with everything all in one big puzzle.
Yes. Yes. Correct. I
Okay.
yeah, that was explained perfectly, actually. It's just, it's that balance of, just mind, body, spirit.
Hmm.
When you think about a lot of us, we talk about, we've had quite a few Spoonies on that are yoga practitioners and even yoga instructors. And that is also like that helps establish that mind body spirit connection. It's more than just, and our the mindfulness practice that I like to encourage. It's just being in that moment and being raising your awareness at a deeper level.
Hmm. So how does somebody start working on healing at the soul level?
Sure. There's if you go out and you do a search on soul healing, there's a lot of different methods. There's a lot of different. For me, I would say if it's something you want to look into, find what resonates. If you just simply look at, there's just so many practitioners out there. I took a course called Soul Realignment, which is learning how to discover, I guess, what on a soul level, what you are meant to be doing in this lifetime. Um, and then finding ways to incorporate that into your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a career, but it's like, so say for you, Rachel, we'll make a simple example. If you were meant to start a podcast for chronic illness warriors,
Hmm.
and you're like, no, 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 and you didn't do it, you didn't do it, you didn't do it, and you let your fears or your doubts keep you from stepping into what your soul is actually telling you, than sometimes fighting what you're being pulled to do, because you're letting that mental barrier keep you from doing it,
Mm-hmm.
can be detrimental as well,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Like when you think about how you felt when you started the podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
since starting this podcast, how is that is feeding your soul.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's making you feel like, I mean, one thing that we've talked about in past episodes multiple times is finding your purpose. Finding out,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked in the chronic illness, is finding that new purpose.
Right.
And that is part of that, finding that new purpose is also not just physical or mental, but also saying, what is feeding my soul? What is making
Mm-hmm.
me feel better on a spiritual or a soul level,
Mm-hmm.
or energetic level?
Yeah. Or what's going to make me find peace and happiness in my life.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
So,
when you're out of balance,
mhm,
we have this energy. We're made up of energy too. It's not just, muscles, skin, it's not just our physical body. We are energetic beings as well.
mhm. So who's the one that's telling us what our sole purpose is?
Um, your soul, it's you. So then the
Okay, well,
matter of
how
finding
do you
out how
bring
to
that
find that
out?
out.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, Um, like I mentioned, like I said, there's different modalities. So, like for instance, back in one of our previous seasons, we had Di the Yoga Witch on. If our longtime listeners remember, and she did a tarot reading for us. So, like tarot card readings or anything that gives you insight. Like I have like soul cards that I could do a reading
Hmm.
that's tunes into your soul, signs from the universe, the soul realignment course that I had taken, that I've done multiple readings for people. And this is, again, I respect everybody's beliefs. So some people may be like, you're crazy, and other ones are like, yeah, I'm on board with this. And I respect everybody's opinions on whatever you think. But with the soul realignment, for example, which is my favorite one to go to, um if you believe in past lives,
Hmm.
the and also in that energetic world of the higher being, thinking that there's a higher being, there's also it's called the Akashic records. And so the Akashic records, there's a belief with the Akashic records is that I always envision it as a library when I'm accessing it, when I'm going up there and doing it, when I'm working through a reading for somebody, a realignment with someone. I picture myself going up into this library, and I pull their book. So say I'm doing a reading for you,
Hmm.
and I have the basic information of your name, your birth name, your birth date, and where you were, what city you were born in. And then I say, okay, I would like to see, she's given me permission to look into her Akashic records. An
Hmm.
Akashic record is like a storybook, so it'll show you things that perhaps happened in a past life, um, that might help give you some insight on some things that you may be struggling with in your current life.
Hmm.
Um, so say, um, in a past life you took in this life you're like, I can never seem to get ahead on money. I always struggle financially, no matter what I do. Um, but perhaps in a previous life you took a vow of poverty, but you didn't let that go. You carried that vow of poverty still here into this current lifetime. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
where that struggle is. So anyway, so the Akashic records that I like I said, I like to think of it as just me looking at a storybook
Mm-hmm.
of past lives, and but it also helps you understand what you should be doing and what feeds your soul the most
Mm-hmm.
currently.
That's
And
interesting. You need to do that on me sometime.
yes, I
Uh,
can. I would love to do. I would love to do that actually,
yeah.
because it does. It's sometimes releasing those of can and also a quick disclaimer. This is in no means saying that this is going to heal you. This is
Mm-hmm.
a an addition, something that can help you maneuver through life, not like suddenly you're magically all better type um
Right.
thing, but it may help going, okay, well, you know what, now I can release, oh, this makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started doing these, I also was like, I don't understand this message that I'm getting. And then when I sit there and meet with the person that I'm doing the reading for, they're like, oh no, that makes 100% right. Like, you're like people today are like, oh, okay, well, I don't know why, but I really pulled towards helping dogs. Well,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps in your previous life you actually were a veterinarian, or there's so many things to dig into that can help give you some insight on how your life is today.
Mm-hmm.
And then discovering your soul's purpose, or what is going to help feed your soul the most is, I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not suggesting that you should give up, your being, a neurosurgeon to become a animal rescue
Mm-hmm.
person, but or not. I mean, both careers are valid, but so you don't have to switch careers to step into that either, your soul's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you can find understanding what your purpose is and what helps feed your soul that may shift your hobbies or your volunteer
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, and be like, oh, you know what, now that makes sense, maybe I should go volunteer at the animal shelter, and I think that's going to be very fulfilling, and that's going to fulfill what my soul is missing. I don't know if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. And I guess in this conversation, you're kind of the expert, and I'm more of open to things and seeing how this can work in my life or in the lives of the chronic illness community. For somebody that may not be open to the tarot card readings um, or even reaching out to somebody for the information, for somebody that just wants to feel peace with their soul, what are some things that they can do if they're not wanting to reach out? They're more of just feeling like they're unsettled, feeling like they just don't have that peace. What would be
mhm.
some things that you would recommend to at least to start?
Yeah, yeah, and I know we talk about this so much, but meditation,
Mhm.
mindfulness, making that connection, and it's more of y- doing those mindful, sitting out in nature if you're a nature person, or whatever brings you peace, just taking that moment of turning inward. But yeah, so meditating, like especially like if you look on YouTube, like a nice spirit connection or soul meditation, or um, if you're super religious, a lot of people find it in prayer. If you have a regular prayer practice, so just a daily practice of something that connects you spiritually
Mhm. Yeah. And I
is
would
going to
think
help
that,
you, because that's going to help you feel more centered.
yeah. And I think that obviously it's going to be different for everybody. If you can't go out on a nature walk, then just sitting out on your front porch or you're in your backyard and just sitting and trying to find quiet in the craziness that is chronic illness um, for somebody who loves to write. We've talked about it before of journaling or keeping a diary or even just logging your symptoms and how you're feeling for the day. Sometimes that can help kind of get that anxiety out as far as I'm having all these stomach issues and I don't know what's going on. And so I'm going to keep a journal of everything. And that gives you peace to know that it's on paper and that you'll be able to kind of figure that out. So it's just looking at different
Mhm.
ways for the chronic illness community to find that inner peace. Hey there, Salty fans. Are you on a journey of healing physically, emotionally, or even spiritually? When life feels unbalanced, realigning your soul starts with caring for your body in the most natural, intentional way possible.
At Salty Provisions, they believe that true wellness begins with purity. That's why they keep it clean, literally. No fillers, no artificial ingredients, just high quality, natural sea salts and bold seasonings designed to support both body and spirit.
And it all starts with their first and most important ingredient, Norwegian sea salt. Lab tested and proven to be one of the purest salts on the market, it provides essential minerals without the impurities and toxins found in other major brands. Because when you're working toward balance, the last thing you need is hidden contaminants disrupting your health.
Whether you're nourishing your body with wholesome meals, using salt to support hydration and wellness, we see you POTS warriors, or simply looking to bring more mindful choices into your daily life, they've got you covered. So go ahead, keep it clean with Salty Provisions. Explore their award-winning sea salts, salt-forward seasoning blends, and electrolyte drink mixes at doyoulovesalt.com.
And because your healing journey deserves the best, here's a little gift. Use code SPOONFUL with 2 L's for 20% off your order.
Balance your body, nourish your soul, and keep it clean with Salty Provisions.
And I think the hardest part for a lot of people is, but it's the key part of that is quieting your mind.
Yeah. I think that's
you have to let your mind go. Yeah, and that's why I like I'm always a big proponent for meditation, and especially mindfulness is just letting, taking those deep breaths and quieting your mind to the point of all of the outside influences. You're unaware of all the outside influences and you're turning inward. Right. So you're listening to what you're about, and sometimes it's just as simple as going, okay, well, all right, body, or okay, soul, spirit, whatever you want to touch into, what message do you have for me today?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of listening to your body, excuse me, my blood sugar's low, so I'm chewing on some glucose gummies to
gotcha.
So I'm hoping it sometimes when my sugar gets low, it affects my thinking and all of that. So hopefully I stay with you here. But
yep.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned something earlier, quieting your mind, and even with people who are not diagnosed, who are in the tornado of trying to figure out what's going on and people telling you that your labs are normal or everything is fine, you're overthinking things, you're imagining things, of just settling the spirit and their mind down to be able to think more rational, I would imagine. And
yeah,
so let's talk about anxiety, because I know that anxiety and depression are quite common in people with chronic illness.
yes.
What does the soul healing look like to help with anxiety and depression and things like that?
So part of the soul healing is also being able to kind of release some of these old, maybe deep-seated either trauma or stress, and being able to tune more in at the soul level. Definitely, in my experience, it helps calm me down overall. And so it really helps when I start feeling anxious, just going out and feeling more grounded, doing meditation, calming that energetic part of your body down is going to help calm like your emotions as well. So for anxiety, when you think about it, when you're anxious or stressed, your heart rate is up. You feel on edge the whole time. Often you may be a little more, I know when I'm anxious or stressed, I'm snappier. I tend to not be as patient with some things. So reverting back to when you start feeling that anxiety of going back to that tuning in on a soul level or on your spiritual level of like, that's going to help calm the body's normal response to those situations. Is going to help calm that back down.
Okay. So let me give you a scenario, and we'll call the person Smachel. So we'll say this Smachel
Rachel.
has a history of family discounting your illness, discounting your maybe even as a young child, feeling discounted and not taken seriously. But it hurts the most when it's medical. And let's say Smachel, even as a 47-year-old woman married with my own family, has a hard time with almost having to prove my illness, feeling like feeling like she has to prove that she can't come to family functions, or having to feel like, well, they don't understand and they don't believe that there even is an illness. So having some of those emotional wounds, then feeling like that is even now still present in her life, whether it be husband not wondering if he gets it, wondering if he understands, or feeling like she has to prove that she's sick, or feeling like a burden because maybe there was things in the past that have made her feel like she's not deserving, she's not worthy of self-care, she's not worthy of being treated in the way that she feels like she could be treated. This is going in a whole nother level, but let's take that scenario. And you talked about the soul healing. How would that help somebody who has anxiety or trauma in response to a chronic illness?
So that's a great scenario, actually, because I do feel like that's something that quite a few people, whether you have chronic illness or not, struggle with family dynamics in general can be tough. So by soul healing, that would help. There's a few scenarios that I feel like that would help with. The hard part, and it's something that I also really struggle with, is that I have a lot of family loyalty of of going, okay, they're family members, so I need to, this is part of my family. So I owe them loyalty, or I owe, I want good relationships. And so doing that hard soul work is not necessarily trying to fix that situation, not trying to um convince them otherwise. That's, they're what they're doing, what they're going through, what their thoughts are theirs, and there's nothing that
Mhm.
you're going to be able to do to let that go. Where you need where the healing can help is allowing you to be able to let that go and be
Mhm.
and say, okay, you know what? It makes me sad that they don't believe me, or that I feel like I'm always having to prove, or that they feel like I don't want to be there. I'm using my illness as an excuse to not come to events. That's on them. That's
Mhm.
their things to work through. And the hard part is allowing Smachel to let that go, to be okay with coming to terms with knowing that she's making the choices that she needs to make for herself and her immediate household, and that it's it's okay to do that.
So to kind of come back to everything. So soul healing is really trying to find the peace within yourself to not let the
Absolutely.
noise of trauma, anxiety, doctors, um, anybody else, even caregivers, spouses, to let that influence how you feel or how you take care of yourself, of really listening to your body and being able to treat your body as if it's completely your own and your thoughts and your feelings, and trying to keep mentally healthy and
Yeah.
trying to do that.
It's easy for us to cope with letting the anxiety, letting the stress, letting the unhappiness come through, because you don't it's like sometimes that soul healing can be really hard work, because you're digging into maybe some stuff that you're holding onto, or things that are um maybe triggering that
Mm-hmm.
reaction, and facing what those triggers are, and what those, or the trauma or whatever it is that where those stem from,
Mm-hmm.
can take a lot of work to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
a where are those feelings coming from, but also just being able to look at those feelings dead in the eye, so to speak, and be ready to kind of tackle them.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned like tarot card talk a little bit about other options that are
Hmm.
available for somebody who
Yep.
knows nothing about what
Yep.
we're talking about today.
Sure, sure. Hypnosis. I also am I am a trained hypnotist, and hypnosis is a great way to delve into that subconscious part of your body, um, and your spirit. And uh, that can also, as I just mentioned, having to release some of your thoughts and preconceived notions and things. One thing that I like to do with people when I'm doing a hypnosis session is, as I'm bringing them into, quieting their minds, and we're going into that subconscious area of saying, okay, as we go into this journey, as I'm bringing you down into the trance-like state, the hypnotic state, we want to quiet your mind and clear everything. So, before we move forward, I like to use like a big trunk,
Mm-hmm.
like a big steamer trunk, and I say, over here, this is a holding room, and over there is a big trunk. So unpack everything that you don't want to bring along on this journey, mentally and emotionally, and put it in that trunk. And don't worry, because sometimes people also have a hard time, like sometimes that trauma, holding on to that can be a security blanket as well for people. So, just say, if at the end of the session on our way back out, you can pick it back up if you want to, if you choose to. And so then I'll bring them on to, so they unpack, and then we move on and we do our session. And then when we come back, I'll give them the option and say, okay, here's that trunk where you unpacked all this stuff. So you have a choice. You can pick it back up and bring it back out with you, or you can go over to this fire pit over here and toss it in there and let it go. So it's not about, it's still giving the individual the option to choose what they want to hold on to and what they want to let go. But it, like, being able to let it go is really that freeing, is such a freeing feeling.
It's giving them the power to make the
Giving them the
decision
power
over their thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, I don't know if I've ever had a client that actually went and took stuff back. I think everybody at the end of the session, if I always feel like if I've done my session right, if I've guided them right, because it's not, I'm just a guide. I'm not, I just bring you along the journey. You still do you do the work. I'm just guiding you on it. But if I guided you correctly, then majority of the stuff at the end of your session, you shouldn't have the need, or hopefully you won't feel the need to pick it back up and bring it back. But if you do, it's okay too, because that just means that you're not healed to the point of being ready to let it go.
We need to kind of wrap this up. Can you give our listeners 5 things that they could Google or research that would be beneficial to help with the soul healing?
Yep. So there's one lady, I followed her for years. She is since, passed on. But there's still many people out there still doing her work. Louise Hay, and she she's very much into, you can heal your life, heal your body. It's all about your thought process of how you can, by healing your heart, healing your emotions. For example, for her, it's Louise Hay, or anything. A lot of the practitioners on Hay House. That's a great source. So Hay House is a great one. YouTube has a lot of that. YouTube is my go-to for meditations. Those are great, and you can find them for a variety of length of times on that. If you're interested in hypnosis, there's and I know we have listeners all over the world. I know in here in the United States, I think it's called the American Guild of Hypnotists or something like that. You can find licensed hypnotists. If you are looking, if you are drawn to the metaphysical, and you have metaphysical stores in your area, a lot of them will usually also offer some workshops or various events or things like that. And then Denise Lynn is another great source, and she does also a lot of intuitive work and soul type work on soul level, chakras. If you any type of energy work like Reiki, meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, those type of things. Anything that any of the activities that really focus on that mind, body, spirit, helping you reach a stasis, a balance, between mind, body, spirit. So those would be my sources. There's lot out there. So, and just like anything, it's a matter of finding the reputable people that make the offerings. Do your research, look for reviews. If you don't know anyone,
ask Tina. Reach out to Tina.
Ask me. I can help you.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's a hard journey to go through. And I know I have some things that I know I need to be working through. There's a lot of other things to go to. And I know that I have my own work to do that I've been ignoring for a while, but I'm also a big proponent of saying, okay, if you keep getting these messages and these little nudges of going, these are some areas that you need to work on, and you don't, I always call it, I have an idea for a book called Soul Slapped, and it was talking about how if your soul will give you little clues on if you're not on the path it wants, or it's not being fed properly. And if you keep ignoring the small clues, that's when you get slapped upside the head with something big.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think we've probably all experienced at some point, whether that be, physical injury because you're not using your cane or your walker or, anything like that. But so that now we've wrapped up season 4, our first, by the time this airs, our first year of Spoonful of Strength podcast. And what are your final thoughts, Tina?
I can't believe that we have managed 3 seasons already.
56 episodes.
And I'm looking forward to our little hiatus, but at the same time, I'm already looking forward to coming back, because we've got a great season 4 already in the works. And we haven't even really technically started, but we've started planning season 4. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to a great summer season.
Yeah. Yep. We'll be back sometime in June. We're still working on the details, but we already have a list of Spoonies that we've got to go through. And we're just so happy that everyone has continued on this journey with us, as it's fed our soul and healed our souls a little bit. And so we're looking forward to taking a little bit of a break and resting our bodies and our minds, and coming back to bring you even more topics and Spoonies. And so keep up with our Instagram page at Spoonful of Strength. And we will definitely let you know when season 4 will premiere. And just thank you to everyone who has joined us on this journey. And we look forward to continuing in just a short time. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Spoonful of Strength. We hope that you found a little inspiration and maybe even a new perspective to carry with you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that like button, follow us for more, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And if you're feeling generous, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more Spoonies just like you.
Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and keep finding strength in your story. Bye for now.
And see you next time on Spoonful of Strength.